What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and what a fun one we have for you guys tonight as we cover Jeff Ruby Stakes Day at Turfway Park with special guest Jackson Muniz. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate this. Camera's all over the place, and I apologize for that, but we'll get right into the handicapping, of course, in a second. But before that, if you guys are enjoying the show or you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't subscribed, why not? You guys are already coming back anyway. Please go down below the video player. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it because not only is it 100% free to do and the best way to help out our channel, but it also pushes out these videos into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. Of course, for that, we thank you. And it's a big thank you right now as the HHH Racing Podcast is on the push for 5,000 YouTube subscribers, guys. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it if you hit the sub button right now. Last time I checked, I believe we're at 4.98K. So 4,980 subscribers, guys. Only getting so close. So if you could, please hit the subscribe button tonight. We would greatly appreciate it. You can see as it just scrolled by the normal podcast schedule for every single week here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Every single intermittent Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have Horsing Around. We did cover the NHC recap on Monday, including a exclusive interview with the 2025 NHC winner, Crownsway's own Dan Piazza. So, guys, if you and Tony Rollo, of course, don't want to sell him short, but of course, he did have an interview with the champion. Guys, go watch that if you have any interest in the NHC at all. But what an absolutely amazing week, and you're definitely going to want to hear about it. Every single Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pacific Horse Players with Ryan, Noah, and new member of the family, and who's going to be part of the show tonight, Jackson Muniz. Again, Pacific Horse Players on Tuesday night, us right here every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, and Picks and Ponies Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Howard, Pete, and Paul. Guys, please set the notifications so you guys can watch us every single week live. But also, we have every single episode in audio form as well. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. New socials, guys, of course, they're not new anymore, but TikTok and Instagram at Bettin N Boozin Podcast. Please go follow us over there. The Power Picks are still going strong, guys. Please go follow us over there, or please go subscribe to those if you guys are interested. It's a full tip sheet that gets sent out every single Saturday to subscribers, and you get 3 full tracks, price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. The HHH Racing Podcast has you covered with the Power Picks. The link is in the description, or if you just go to patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast, it will take you there. And if you want to see previous editions of those Power Picks before you buy them, or just want to learn more about the podcast, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com. Guys, I'm a little bit late today, so I didn't get a banner up for it, but it is in the top. It's in just below our normal podcast schedule. It is in the description. The 2025 HHH Racing Podcast bracket pool for March Madness went live on Monday. If you guys missed the NHC or are not on Howard's email list, please go down in the description right now to get into the bracket pool for your share of both free money, free tip sheets for Keeneland coming up soon. My favorite meet of the, my favorite dual meet of the year, Keeneland's. I'm so excited for Keeneland this year, but also HHH Racing Podcast merch. It is all in the description below. So please go. And it's a link. You'll need an ESPN account, but you also need to be a subscriber to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel, again, as we make that push to 5,000 subscribers. Again, completely free to do. You just have to have an ESPN account and obviously create a bracket, but free $100 to the top prize plus a Keeneland Power Pick tip sheet. $50 to second place and an HHH Racing Podcast hat, and $25 to third place. Again, costs nothing to sign up, so please go get in today. Guys, ton of people in the chat. Greatly appreciate everyone joining in. We will get to it as soon as we bring everyone on, starting, of course, with our guest tonight. Again, new family member to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel, but has a podcast with Ryan Anderson. Now a member of the America's Best Racing family. We call him the Turfway Park expert, Jackson Muniz, with, of course, my normal co-host, Patrick Kunsel and Charlie Freeman. Boys, welcome in, guys. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. And Jackson, first show on Bettin N Boozin, man. We've known each other now for a while, but obviously it feels good to get you on the show, first time on the show.
Yeah, glad to finally join you guys, and I feel like we picked a good one. This is Turfway's biggest card of the year, and it's a tough one. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's turf. We'll hear this phrase probably a lot from me today. It's Turfway Park. A lot of things can happen on the Tapeta down in Southern Kentucky. But boys, on the bottom, what do you got? How you guys doing tonight?
Doing well. What is it, Christmas Eve? Christmas Eve, Charlie?
Oh yeah, no, between having to actually pretend I care about school and handling other things and getting back from Florida and March Madness sleep has been at a premium. Not getting much of it. But
yeah, you haven't been getting much of it. Well, to be fair, I was knocked out for all of Friday at the MC, but us in Vegas, we didn't get much sleep either. So there's no worries there, considering that we're all feeling a little bit tired. But yeah, those that didn't hear that story, you guys can go back to Monday, because it definitely is a doozy. But we have a lot of races to cover. Again, guys, we're covering every single stakes race, 7 through 12. It's going to start with 3 listed stakes and has 2 grade 3s, including the Bourbonette Oaks and the Jeff Ruby Stakes, of course, on the road to the Kentucky Derby. The first race in this sequence, guys, is the Latonia Stakes. It's race number 7, and I'll get give me 1 second, guys. It's having a lot of fun, so give me 2 seconds as I bring it up.
A little bit of breaking news. Turfway Park, as per usual, has a carryover into tomorrow's late pick 5. So if you need a little action or a little bankroll builder, go ahead and start studying for that one tomorrow.
Even better, yeah, because Turfway doesn't have a whole lot of carryovers per se with everything that runs over there. Sorry. All right, we're good now, guys. So let's get into this race. And no surprise, starts off with a full field of 12 in the Latonia Stakes. And this race is pretty wide open. But when I put this up, when I was putting these picks in, and I saw this one come up, I was very excited. My man Jackson, baby, I love that. The number 8, Dazzling Dictator, Luan Machado, and Rudy Brusette at 8-1 is who we're going with. Charlie's going with the number 6, Long Ago, for a coming in Umberto Rispoli and Brendan Walsh. Morning line favorite is the number 5, Dana's Beauty, for Juan Hernandez, who's also coming in. I didn't expect to see that name at Turfway Park. I'll tell you that much, for Mike Maker. So, Charlie, I'll let you talk first. You are the odd man out here. I'll let you talk. What would you like most about the number 6, Long Ago?
Yeah, this race is a doozy. It is really wide open and tough to figure out. So I was just looking for a horse with upside and that I had a feeling would get a price. Obviously, Brendan Walsh, not really the guy to typically have a ton at Turfway. This isn't usually the track you go to bet him on, but the horse is working well. And another thing that I just thought was really interesting about this 6 is I just think could work out a really nice trip. And also another thing Brendan Walsh, at least from my experience with watching him, doesn't do too often is take a horse who ran March 12th and turn around and have this horse run less than 2 weeks later, which to me kind of signals that he really liked what he saw enough to be able to take a chance with this one. Another angle for me personally that I talk about all the time is how much I hate horses in their first start in America, because it normally is a disaster because they need one. So the fact that this one ran as well as she did on debut, I get that she was 5, but that doesn't factor to me. It's still a hard transition typically. So I just think there's a lot of upside and she could take a step forward. And then I was happy to pull up time for him because that was my other thing. I just think she could end up sitting a nice stalking trip.
As I showed Jackson, there is a pretty hot pace according to time form in this one. Obviously, we're looking to take advantage of that as well. But, I mean, there's just so many different horses you can make a case for. Long Ago is one of those that you can, especially second in the States. But she looks a little slow, is going to have to improve at least a little bit. Jackson.
Sorry about Six. Yeah.
No, you're good.
My issue with her is she ran last week. I mean, this isn't like, okay, she's had 4 weeks between starts and now she's going to be able to improve second off the bench. Like, they're wheeling her right back. And maybe she does get the right setup from way off the pace in here. She kind of just picks up all the pieces and wins. That's probably her path to victory in this spot. But as far as getting that same grip where she's kind of mid-pack and beating these horses with that kind of speed figure, I had a hard time seeing it, especially at 5-1.
And you're talking about, Luan Machado, which, again, we could talk about Luan Machado for a while. We will not. This is not the podcast for that, but we're taking the horse, Jackson, that Luan Machado moves over to. And I'll get to where Pat's picks are in a minute.
I could just answer that for everybody.
Please go for it.
Yeah, I didn't do my homework.
Pat didn't read the rules, ladies and gentlemen. I sent them the races he needed to do. And he did one less, so Pat's putting time out for this one.
Put that up there with White Arborio in the what's it called?
No, that one that's top notch shit.
I do have picks for races 8 through 12.
Yes, he will get here, but Pat's putting time out for this race, and obviously, if he doesn't have picks to give us, guys, there's nothing I can give to you. So that's his problem, not mine. But Jackson, Dazzling Dictator, I'm very happy that you went with this one. Went to the lead, kind of inherited the lead last time out, probably just better than those. Then now shows up here, 1.25 miles, should slot back into that, type of mid-pack running that she was known for early in her career. And I feel like that could be a very good way around the track, at least in this race.
Yeah, I love this fill in this spot. If I'm playing horizontals, I'll just be singling her everywhere. You mentioned it, the last race was really good. She did inherit the lead. There was a serious lack of pace in there, but she did what she was supposed to do. Took a little bit of pressure halfway through that race and just ran off the screen. It was really, really impressive. The 2-back race is a lot better than it looks too. That was a race that she was pressing the whole time from the outside. That was a race that got completely fell apart. She was the only horse on the lead who stuck around at all. And ran a really good second to Miss Quality Control, who came back to win a stakes race over a lot of the horses in this field. So you could argue that she ran a lot better than Miss Quality Control did that day, and that horse just beat everyone in here. So you already talked about it too. She's very capable of coming from off the pace. I don't think the change in tactics is going to be a problem for her. And she's 8-1 in this spot. I think it's a really, really nice price.
I couldn't agree with you more. You took every word I want to say out of my mouth. To your point, you could see the 2 horses that finished 1-2 were first and third were last and second to last in that race, and she was the one being pressed all the way around the track. So, again, took the words right out of my mouth. Could not agree with you more. And, guys, Jackson, if she's anywhere near 8-1, we have a recurring segment on this show that we like to call the Irresponsible Wager of the Week, and I might be using it early here if this horse is anywhere near 8-1. So I'm glad that you have this horse in there as well. Charlie, I'll let you round out your picks here. You and Jackson both have number 3, Everland, also at 8-1. Abel Cedillo hops aboard, who I think doesn't necessarily get the praise that he sometimes deserves, because I feel like he's very good, especially near the lead. Obviously, you're not going to get that with this horse here, but all 4 of the career wins at Turfway Park, and feel free to end it with the 12th before we move on.
Yeah, and I know Jackson, as I like to talk myself as Mr. South Beach. I know he's, the quote-unquote king of Turfway, so I'll let him do more of the add-ons for the 3 after I briefly touch on these 2. For me, it was strictly just horses for courses. I think Turfway is certainly a difficult track for some to get used to. I know it's different in terms of Kentucky Downs, where that's more of the configuration, but I do think Turfway is another one of those tracks that it's not as much of a guarantee a horse will take to it. So it is important to me that this one's 4 for 8, straight up. Also, as you touched on with Cedillo already, Kyle, I think he's a very underrated jockey. And this one is also already done at the stakes level as well. So I think she's been very proven. I don't think, because some of those factors, that you'll get 8-1, but I also feel pretty confident you'll get at least 6 or 7-1 compared to your guys' 8 that I agree. I think will be a lot shorter. And then just briefly on the 12, Dreaming of Mo. This was one I just thought has just done a good job in the past of being able to stay on the lead regardless of the fractions. And I just think she's pretty ultra consistent, really wherever she goes, and just runs in those mid-80s. So I just think she's a pretty safe bet to finish in the money. So that's why I put her in my top 3.
I mean, me and Dale Romans don't necessarily get along too well at this point in the career. But look, if he can clear from that, obviously it's a tough draw. There's not a whole lot to his inside in terms of going to the lead. Lady Firefoot's going to be out the back. Maybe Distorted Dioro on towards the inside. looking for horses to maybe keep Dreaming of Mo wide going into the first turn. I feel like that's going to be the biggest hurdle early for Lannery to try and get this horse into the mix. But again, part of a hot pace, not necessarily two things that I like for this one, although obviously has run very consistently, especially going back to that race. The horse won at Gulfstream Park. That's why Charlie has the horse in the top three.
I think we covered that horse too, and that was that on.
Yep, I'm sure we
Pegasus, did. Pegasus Day, or
I think it was.
Yeah,
January 25th. So, yep, it was. So, sorry, of course. How could I forget if that horse is in there? But Jackson, obviously, anything you want to add on Everlyn, feel free to. And then the last horse we'll talk about here is Austere, who I'm also glad you have in there because I like her a little bit as well.
Yeah, same case with Everlyn and Austere, just closers that seem like they're going to get the right kind of trip in this spot. It feels like a race that's going to be very hot on the lead, so I wanted horses that were coming from way out of it. Don't love either of these two nearly as much as I love the 8 horse, but I just think they're going to get the right kind of setup.
And I think Austere is probably going to be bet a little bit off that 6-1. This race is wide open, but Brendan Walsh, Gerardo Corrales, two guys that are definitely well and truly above at Turfway Park and has been in the past. So I think Austere might get bet a little bit down from that 6-1 number, which is why I didn't like her as much comparatively to the 8 as you talked about the value. But I think she has a very good chance and definitely will get a jump on a lot of others, maybe coming from farther back. The Dana's Beauty is the only other horse we didn't really talk about. This is another one that should be pretty close up to this pace setup. And if it does melt, she's not one I want. She's obviously very fast, and she has back-to-back 91s in there that if she runs that, she's going to be tough in this spot. But I just don't see a winning necessarily a winning trip for her around the track. She did run well, but it was at starter allowance from off the pace. Did sit just 2 back in the Ricks Memorial at Remington Park. Again, 2 spots you could argue might even be easier than a race like this. Again, speed figures match. It's just going to be hard for her to get a winning spot around the track. Although, again, if she wins, I wouldn't necessarily be completely surprised at all. I'm going 8-7-5. Jackson's going 8-3-7. Charlie's going 6-3-12 to kick off this 6-race sequence with the Latonia. Guys, we'll move on to race number 8 here as I switch over the Equibase right now. It is the Rushaway Stakes going a mile to 16th for 3-year-olds only, draws a field of 8, and Patrick finally gets to speak. So there are the picks on the bottom of the screen here, and I'll switch over the Equibase right now. You can see the morning line favorite is the number 2 Urban Planner, who Patrick is going with. So Patrick even gets to talk first. How about that?
I guess I got to make up some time here.
Yeah, yeah. But my dude, Jackson and I, what we talked about. I'm just glad I'm agreeing with the king himself.
I like it.
Game Warrior, and I'm very glad you like this horse because this horse is shipping from the West Coast, where of course you are from, and cover on Pacific Horse Players. Charlie, I like your pick as well, my man. Going with number 5, Cole Moon. So lots of different ways to go in this race, even though it is only an 8-horse race. Jackson, you still don't get the opportunity to go first because there are difference. I'll let Pat talk about the morning line favorite, and since he's now off mute, what did you like most about the number 2 Urban Planner?
Yeah, so obviously if Urban Planner goes off to the favorite, I'm not a big fan of that, and because I do think this race is obviously a little more open than likable to have a favorite in here. But I do think coming back, what is it going to be, around 16 days, has looked really good. Those last 2 races, I can't fault that the horse, really did put a nice effort in last out at the beginning of March. So I'm going to trust connections here to, bring this horse back in this spot, thinking they have this horse, coming along well. So I'm not going to try and dodge this horse here. I understand that the soft favoritism, may not be likable, but I've definitely seen a progression here. And that race has, does seem to look like it might come back pretty strong.
Yeah, and I'll go to show the time form. There's not a whole lot of pace in here, although I don't necessarily think Urban Planner is going to be on the lead. Again, last race, it almost seemed like an inheritance type thing where she's much better coming from middle of the pack. I will say, though, as an Arlington guy, I never have liked Owen Hardy too much. I think he's very passive in the way he trains, but I mean, he's running light. I mean, he's 30% at Turfway. You can't ignore that. And obviously I'll get to something later that I like about Owen Hardy, but number 2 Urban Planner definitely has a chance, but it's going to have to improve again, I think, a little bit off of those numbers. But Jackson, we're going to the horse just to the outside. Umberto Risperi, Peter Miller ships this one, and has shipped a couple over in this race. So obviously we're in this card, excuse me. So we're looking forward to see how you feel about that. But Game Warrior 7-2, a little bit shorter price, but runs back to that last race, Jackson. Could be pretty tough.
Yeah, I think he's the right kind of price in this race. It seems pretty wide open, even with the shorter field. I just like his last two races. The one at Del Mar going up against Clock Tower and Scipio. Those are two nice horses.
Yeah.
Didn't have the right trip in that spot. It was wide, both turns behind a slow pace, and ran perfectly fine in that spot. It was a very respectable performance. Then last time, broke from the rail down the hill. Not the easiest place to come from. And it was a slow pace, and he rallied well to get second over a horse, Freedom's Not Free, who came back to win a great stakes race last week and improved his figure about 5 points. So he's been keeping really good company, and he worked out over the Tapito at Santa Anita. Obviously not quite the same, but it's a good indicator that he'll probably handle the one at Turfway. He looked really good in that workout. He worked out with Kale's Angel, was entered in the next race, broke off about 5 or 6 lengths behind that one and blew by him really without being asked and galloped out way in front. So I think he's going to really appreciate the surface, has the tactical speed to be forward in a mile race, and he can also finish. So I have a lot of arrows pointing in his direction, and 7-2 again seems like a good price on this horse.
Yeah, and you're talking about this race where I kind of showed it there. I wanted to talk through it real quick. You see he's the one on the inside, absolutely nowhere to go, and has to wait, and tries to alter out here and then gets boxed in by the eventual winner, Scipio, then swings out and then has to follow Scipio to the end. I mean, probably that's like a 2-3 length gap that Scipio just ended up getting there with the perfect trip, and still ends up running on and beats the 6 on the inside with a photobomb for second. So I thought that was actually a very good run. And honestly, it only shows that this horse can get more of a mile than the 6.5 plays, even though it does technically play more like a mile, if you will, on the West Coast. Very impressed with that last run. Now comes over here, and I just think this could be a perfect race for him to set up, even though it's going, like I said, a mile and a 16th on the Tapita. Distance is no concern to me out of Malibu Moon as well. So, or no, sorry, that's Cold Moon. Out of Jesus Christ, First Samurai. Still, the point is shared there. Charlie, you're going with the number 5 Cold Moon, who I actually have in second, and I'm very happy you had this horse, because I had this horse in top for the longest time. Ended up putting the 3 in, and hopefully I'm glad I did. This is a horse coming out of restricted company, which again could argue could be this might be a pretty big step up for Cold Moon, but I feel like if you get 5-1 or higher, I feel like the price could be right to take a shot at least vertically.
For me, this is strictly an upside pick. Obviously, he hadn't done a ton of running in his career. Granted, he also, ran against some difficult horses on turf. Then after that comes off a huge layoff, and they decide to bring him to Turfway and try the Tapita for the first time, and runs a really game second, only losing by a neck. And I thought for a first time trying something different off a layoff, it looked nice. Then took a big step forward, in my opinion, visually to win last time. And I think that 8-point jump is reflective and accurate of what I visually saw as well. And so for me, this is just strictly a horse who now is a third try off the layoff, a third try on the Tapita that should be improving and getting better, and seems to be taking well to the, to this Turfway track. So again, this is just an upside pick. I think this is, honestly, I think I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I just feel like Jackson can talk about it if he feels different because he's the king of it. But I feel like Turfway is just a really tough track. So I don't really want to go like a chalky favorite in races that just seem so open.
Jackson, feel free to touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the favorites still win the same rate at Turfway as they do pretty much everywhere else. It's maybe a tiny bit lower just because of the field size, but it's just different because it's a different type of horse usually, and it's a different surface. I think people try to pretend like it's dirt, pretend like it's turf, and it's not. It plays a lot differently, and you really have to pay attention to the pace scenarios there. But I agree with you in this specific race. This is a race where I think you don't want to settle on too short of a price.
I couldn't agree with you more. Pat, I'll let you talk about the one here. Jackson, feel free to touch on anything, and then you can go into the last horse we all have on there, who actually apparently one of the buddies of a guy in chat owns. So I'll definitely be interested to talk about that. End of Romance, Pat. You have this horse in second. Anything you want to touch on with End of Romance?
Yeah, I mean, I think this horse, running overseas didn't run, too bad. And then, Motion's going to put this horse in this spot. That interests me. That I think that's a sign that this horse can run. Obviously, we think of Graham more, being a turf trainer here, but I don't know about you, Jackson. I just think there's definitely something there with this horse. But obviously, could be one of those first time out in the States things where you need to get a little bit of a pass.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with them because I tried to find some workouts, try to find some interviews about this horse, and they were just kind of nothing. Kind of just going based off of the form here, and he won going the left-handed turn twice, which I do think is important for these Euros. And the time form numbers, while they're not exactly apples to apples comparison, they seem pretty strong for an early season 2-year-old. So I think you kind of have to respect them. It's a good sign that he shows up here. It's not the easiest spot in the world, and Johnny B shows up here as well. So I think there's some attention here. He's one I kind of want to watch the board on Saturday, just try to find any kind of info about him.
Yeah, and that's obviously a very good place to start. Also, I think it's worth noting that this horse has been working out at Fair Hill. It was working out on the turf at Palm Meadows, then switched to the Tapeta at Fair Hill, which almost seems like this has been the spot in mind now for the last 4.5 weeks for Graham Motion. So again, we talk about trainer intent a lot on this show and stuff like that. Seems like this has been that type of play for Graham Motion for a while now. So end of romance. The board will tell. I completely agree with the other guys on this thing. Jackson, real quick, anything you want to add on Banks before we move on?
He's the one to beat. He's coming out of the best race where he got a really good trip and just didn't quite kick on with it. But, Charlie kind of talked about it. There are just certain horses that really love this track, and he's one of them. I just don't love that he hasn't really progressed from earlier in the meet to now. So I think he's one you maybe want to try to beat, but he's obviously very, very big contender in the spot.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Where I feel like unless he takes a step forward here, you would kind of know what type of racehorse he is. But also you could argue, Baby Max, California Burrito, all these horses are showing up later, right, of course, in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. So you could argue maybe he's just a company above, and this could be a little bit easier spot. And he's working well for Joe Sharp, so it could be a sign he is ready to run. I'm going 3-5-4. Jackson's going 3-4-1. Pat's going 2-1-4. Charlie's going 5-2-7. Guys, we'll move on to race number 9 here, Turfway Park on Saturday, which is the Animal Kingdom Stakes. It is, I believe, the Shards ran in this race, if I remember this correctly. It's going 6 furlongs for 3-year-olds, of course, on the dirt, on the Tapeta, of course. Field of 8. That's called Habit, ladies and gentlemen. And for once, I think it'll be the only time, but we all are on the same exact horse. It's the number 4, Coming In Hot, who is not your morning line favorite. Excuse me. I was about to say your second choice for Luan Machado and John Ennis. Your morning line favorite is the number 7, Kale's Angel for Ramon Vasquez. Another shipper in for Peter Miller at 2-1. Jackson, you are the guest, so I will allow you to go first, of course, on this one as I pull up the time form right now. You can see it's not too quick of a pace. So what'd you like most about the number 4, Coming In Hot?
Yeah, and again, there's some horses that just thrive over this racetrack. He's the perfect example because he was doing absolutely nothing as a 2-year-old over the dirt. He ran, I believe, 6 times and didn't really do anything at all. And then he get into the Tapeta against good field at a giant price, and he just freaked. He ran off the screen. Floodlights, I think, was like 2-5 in that spot. He's a good horse for Wesley Ward, and he was well clear of that one. Floodlights was well clear of the rest. Brought him right back 2 weeks later in a stakes race. Exact same thing happened. So one that just clearly loves this racetrack. Can't fault him for trying the Derby prep last time. He's a 3-year-old that's in good form. Try him around 2 turns. I remember watching the interview with the trainer before that race, and they were not really expecting him to handle the 2 turns, but they had to try. Is basically what he had said, and that's kind of being the case. And now they're getting back to a spot where makes plenty of sense. He's had plenty of success over this trip. Looks like there's plenty of speed for him to sit again, just right behind the speed. And if he runs back to those races 2 and 3 back, he'll be awfully tough in this spot.
Yeah, and we call that DFS around here, Jackson, the Derby fever syndrome. But of course, got to take a chance when you have it. But getting back to this 1 turn should be exactly what Coming In Hot needs, and should be able to even maybe improve off that 86 and 80 that he ran back in mid-December and early January. So yeah, Coming In Hot, definitely the horse to beat. And I feel like if there's anyone in this sequence that could be the most likely winner, I think Coming In Hot is probably near the top of that regard. So again, not too much else to say on him. I just feel like he did a really good trip. I showed the time for him there. He's going to be right in behind the speed, most likely, that comes from the inside and the outside. So closing in together, I feel like he might just sit a perfect pocket trip. And if he does get that, he's going to be very, very tough Pat, I'll let you talk next on Pequan. Anyone can add, of course, as well. I don't have this horse anywhere, but everyone else has this horse somewhere. So David Jacobson trains, Gabe Saez rides here. Of course, this horse is cross-entered. You guys can see right here at Oaklawn Park. So we'll have to see where this horse goes. This horse is working no, it's not. Sorry, he didn't work at Oaklawn. It worked before this last race. So could go anywhere. But so keep an eye, of course, on the scratches of the day. But what'd you like most about Pequan, Patrick?
Yeah, I think we could all agree Pequan's going to be hoping for some pace in here. This horse has shown the late kick and has honestly lacked, getting there more times than not. But I do think it's evident that the horse seems to, like the Tapeta and has shown that, running on this surface twice and being in the money both times. I just think, gets the inside rail, can sit back and, let the race come to him. I don't know. David Jacobson's so hard to tell, but when he's run here, he's been winning at a pretty decent percentage. So I like this horse underneath in a race that I think, we could kind of all key in on the 4.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to find some type of price to put underneath in a race like this, right? 6-1 could be a good enough price. Obviously, Jackson agrees with you. Charlie has this horse in 3rd, so I definitely don't hate it by any means. Jackson, you also have the 6 in 3rd, like I do. Big Vince. Yeah. This is a horse for Arlington legend Larry, actual Arlington legend Larry Ravelli, not the one we talk around here with actual Arlington legend Larry Ravelli. This is another one that's going to show speed. Out of the 2, this is probably the speed I prefer, drawn to the outside. But again, the duel looks to be pretty hot between the 2 and the 6.
Yeah, and I think if it's just those 2, he could be okay. I think when 2 horses duel, that's not the biggest issue in the world. The problem is the horse directly to his outside. What is Kale's Angel doing?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I think he's kind of the key to the race, because if he also presses, which he usually does, he's usually a horse that's right up on the lead, then this thing could get really hot. And maybe it does set up for a horse like Piquant, who just barely lost to Big Vince when Big Vince was completely loose. So now he's going to be under contested pace. So maybe that's going to be enough for him. But, I think I agree with you. I think if you do want a speed horse, it is Big Vince in this race.
Yeah, and Charlie, talking about Kale's Angel, I thought that maybe they might take back based off what they saw that last race. He was able, granted, it was a lot hotter pace than what he's seen before, but was able to rate and actually run pretty well, even though the buyer speed figure didn't exactly say that he ran his best race. Still ran very well, but again, Jackson talked about it at length by now. New surface for him. Has worked on the Tapeta, not necessarily that fast considering it's out in Santa Anita. There's many things to probably poke holes in Kale's Angel. And if you're getting the morning line favoritism might be one you try to play against, for better or for worse.
Yeah, no, this would definitely be one I would try to beat personally, but it's also one I would use defensively, because we talk about trainer intent, and to me, this is just a weird spot, but also for a horse who has shown potential on dirt, and with it being, Derby fever season, and the opportunity to maybe try to put this horse in some sort of actual dirt race to focus more on the Derby than something like this kind of speaks to me volumes. The question is, do you interpret that as trying to look for different upside, or that they don't know what to do with this horse? I feel like the 7 will set a similar trip to the 4. Like I agree with you. I think the 7 will take back and try to stalk, but I trust that the 4 actually has executed on the surface, and like Jackson said, draw a line through that last effort. It was kind of the reverse with the 4 of, when you say they're just trying anything because nothing's working, because everything was working. It was sort of the best thing I could call it was like a heat check in horse racing. And they're like, screw it, let's just throw this one in here, and it didn't work. So for me, I agree. 4 would be my most likely winner, and a horse I'd be singling most likely.
Yeah, I think this is, but I also have a problem with, Jackson, we talk about, you had an 8-1 single earlier. This is more on a little bit of a tangent, but horizontal betting, right? This could be your Moto Obvious single for a lot of people if they really do like coming in hot. So if you have a single like an 8-1 earlier, might be more beneficial than singling someone like this, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Lets you spread in other spots where, like you said, other people are not, and there's a lot of value in that.
And you'd be coming in hot in a race that you could be coming in hot like a race like this, which could exponentially, greaten the payout of the ticket. So a little bit of a tangent there, but I think that was worth at least noting. I'm going 4-7-6 in the Animal Kingdom. Jackson's going 4-1-6. Pat's going 4-1-7. Charlie's going 4-7-1. Guys, we'll move on to race number 10, the Kentucky Cup Classic. This is one of the graded stakes on the card. This is a grade 3, going 1 1/8 for 4-year-olds. and older, draws a full field of Turfway 12, ladies and gentlemen, with the morning line favorite being the he's not too grandpa yet, but he's getting there. The number 3, Verstappen, Declan Cannon, Brendan Walsh at 7-2. I'm going actually. I'm sorry. This is where we start to differ. We're all going with different horses. I'm going with the number 8, Hush of a Storm, the New York bred Cheminade and Brad Cox at 9-2. Jackson's going with the number 7, Tappet Shoes, a pick I actually really, really like. I have the horse in second at 10-1. Pat's going the number 3, Verstappen, and Charlie's going with the number 2, Peros, who I figured he would be going with. As Charlie usually does, he goes with horses that have benefited him in the past. But either way, Patrick, you have the morning line favorite on top, so I'll let you go first, and I'll let Jackson talk second. Charlie, you're kind of getting left on the back burner here, but everyone else is just trying to outdo you right now. Pat, what'd you like most about the number 3, the morning line favorite for stopping?
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah, right. Ultra consistent. Can share the same name as Grandpa's Kyle alluded to open this race up. This horse just keeps coming at Turfway and just keeps performing here. And I don't know. I'm not trying to, beat this horse again. I've had this horse as a win bet more times than not when we've covered this horse, and has done me some pretty good favors. Obviously he's going to need some pace to run into, and should get that. I would be shocked if this horse is probably not in last place out of the gate or right there. But Brendan Walsh is just keeping this horse so consistent. I just think in here I'm not going to try and get too cute, but I do think there's others in here, and I want to hear you guys about the 7, because if it wasn't for a show that Ryan and Jackson had, I wouldn't have watched the trip of the 7. So I do want to hear a little bit more about what you guys like about the 7.
And there will be some 7 love coming in here, at least from Jack, and definitely from me as well.
What do you guys hate about the 3 too?
I was going to ask Jackson. I don't know about you, Jackson. 3 back, I said the same thing. I believe we covered that Fairgrounds card, or if not, we talked about it because we're all degenerate horse gamblers and we watch every track and bet. I just always thought Mile and 16th was too short for this horse. Obviously, completely proved me wrong last time at Fairgrounds, but then gets put back in a 1.25 miles and 1.5 miles even, where I think he's way better, and now comes back into this spot. I still feel like the 1.1 1/8, maybe 1.1 miles might be a little bit better suited for him, but I still think it's a little too short. Jackson.
Yeah, for me, it's just the price. I mean, I'm looking at the figures and everything, and he's not a standout at all and by any means, and he's going to probably be favored in here kind of by default. So I was just looking for something at a bigger price, but I respect the hell out of him. He's obviously very live in this race. And
again, I'm very interested to hear what you like about him, because I also really like this horse as well. Of course, we can't show Turfway replays. Talked about it at length. Why? Don't worry. It's crap. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But what'd you like most about the number 7, Tappet Shoes?
Yeah, just a horse that finally has found himself as of late, just really getting into form. He's running better and better with every start. The race 2 back was really good. He went up against a Brad Cox horse named Nyquick, who's a really nice one, and they were 10 lengths clear of the rest. Really impressive performance there. Obviously got a massive number. And then last time was on February 15th. That was a day when we had Tony Kalo on last night. He was talking about it. That was a day. It was pouring, and when it pours, it gets very, very speedy at Turfway, and it gets very inside favoring. And that race was, the whole card was kind of merry-go-round-ish. That race was somewhat merry-go-round-ish, and he just had trouble at multiple points. He had trouble on the first turn, got shuffled way out of it, made a turn move to the backside, and got shuffled again on the turn. You can't see it on the video, but you can hear Tony say, Tappet Shoes had to steady again, and you can see the rider on the horse next to him, look back to make sure he didn't cut him off or make him go down or anything. And he still rallied again, came running on late, and just ran out of room. And he was the one that ran so well in that spot. I think he's going to be kind of forgotten about because that trouble is not listed in the PPs. Nope. And that's kind of where Turfway comes into play. The comment lines are really, really short there. So trouble at multiple points, I think, was up against the racetrack. And now he's going to be 10-1 in a race that should set up for him again in this spot. So give me him at 10-1. I'm a big fan of this horse.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mentioned the price. 10-1 on this horse is exactly what got me excited. I mean, he's got the 98 Verstappen has, stuff like the speed figures are not far off where the 3 is, and he's almost 3 times the price of a horse like. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Jackson. I really like Tappet Shoes in this spot as well, and definitely be playing him in some type of, double or something like that. I went with Hush of a Storm. Might not be the strongest pick by me, but I feel like in a race like this that might not have too much speed, he's going to be in front of horses like Verstappen and Tappet Shoes. So I think if Hush of the Storm gets a jump on, which is exactly what he did in a couple races back, I feel like he might just trip out in this spot. Brad Cox train, obviously Cheminade is very good both on the Tapeta and on the turf. I like him a lot on the turf, especially down at Tampa. So 9-2 might be a little bit too short. I think he's probably going to stay at about there, although you do get the Brad Cox tax just like you get the IRAD tax. So obviously something to keep in mind. I would not place a vertical win bet on this horse, anything less than 5-1, but I just feel like he might just completely trip out in a spot where even though he's 7, he's running about as good as he's ever run. So Hush of a Storm is going to be my pick here in this one. Charlie, I gave you a little bit of short straw here, but feel free to talk about everything you want to talk about. Peros is a horse I have in third. I actually had in second, but I watched some replays and upgraded Tappet Shoes off of that. This is a horse I'm not ready to give up on. Obviously, JJ hops aboard here, so some intent is there. What'd you like most about Peros?
Yeah, and then one quick thing. This is not a host fill. It's a co-host fill. It's supposed to be 2, 3, 7. I just miscounted. I had this. I was like, I agree with the 7. I have this one in third, and I did not have it on my list. But yeah, Peros, you want to talk about a horse not giving up on. I don't think I can ever give up on this one. Has been in terrific form for a while, and then they kind of tried to ride that into moving into grade 3s that he just wasn't ready for. But it's really hard to fault a horse who, has won like 4 or 5 in a row and has been doing so also in tough races where this one wasn't the favorite. So why would you not want to take that chance? Simply just wasn't built for that level, which is fine because he's now dropping, at least in my opinion, dropping a little bit back down to this level. I think it's kind of in that in between. But the other thing that's important to me is in his one Turfway effort, he looked really good in my opinion. It was a tough pace. He sat a little bit closer than in some of his other races and still handled it. So I think he could work on a trip. I also just think he could be dangerous at this distance. And I just think there's a ton of upside. And I talk about this all the time in any track. I am not a fan of these races that are on the longer side like this. I feel like it can be a little more chaos. So with that being the case, I would like to take a little bit of a chance with the price in Peros. And again, it's just horses done well for me. And I feel like how many times do we see a Michael Maker horse in a spot like this, and then the horse ends up winning, and we're all like, how the hell did we not pick the Maker here?
Yeah, no, and I like Peros a lot. This Keeneland race was very fun. I had this horse then. So I believe this horse is good. It's just a matter of maybe the last 2 times have been a little bit too tough of a spot. Now comes back into a race, probably a little bit more to his liking. And again, this is probably going to be what we call the divorce papers race around here, where might just be a little bit, if he runs another like 82, might be time to just give up, might just not be the same horse as he once was, but I'm willing to give him one more chance at least underneath. So, but this race is super wide open. There's so many different, even Highest Distinction has a 102 if you go all the way back to 2023. And he's going to be 15, if not 20-1 in a race like this. So this race is definitely a wide open, ton of different cases you can make for a bunch of them, including the number 10, Utah Beach, the number 11, Lord Bullingdon. Actually, Jackson, I want you to talk about this horse. Another horse coming over from West Coast before we move on. I feel like I didn't want to give this horse too short of a trip, especially since you and Pat had this horse in there. I'll be straight up and honest. I've never been a fan of this horse. I feel like he's in spots where he might not be exactly what he wants, or he might just not be good enough for. But 15-1 off that 95 last time could be good enough to make a case here.
Yeah, we're a little bit opposite on this horse. This is the one I've been chasing for 3 starts now. I kept going back to the Transylvania last year when he had basically just as much trouble as I think it was Cugino. And just that horse just got the jump, and very similar trips, but this horse just got fourth, obviously, in that race. So he's one that I've just been waiting to stretch out. First 2 comeback races, he did not get a setup. And then last time, the other McCarthy just went straight to the lead, and it was kind of a merry-go-round race. So I found it interesting that he shows up here because there was a race on Saturday at Santa Anita that he would be perfect for, and yet they shipped him all the way across the country to run in this spot. And McCarthy obviously knows what he's doing. He's very, very, very good. Yeah. So the fact that he's here shows it's a lot of good intentions to me. Is he good enough? I don't know, but he's 15-1, so he'll probably be on a ticket or 2 at some point.
And like I said, Pat, 95 buyer, you're talking about Verstappen. Obviously, you have him on top, but that's exactly where he is. And Lord Bullingdon's going to be almost 5 times the price of him. So obviously you have him in third, so you must like him as well a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I thought this horse was very interesting. That outside draw, I would think likes, going to be sitting off the pace. And I think this horse hopefully can hit the try.
I think that comes from Jackson when he ran in the oh God, I don't know the exact the Qatar Gold Mile when he won going away that race, and everyone thought he was like the next shit. And the next thing you know, he runs back.
He beat like maiden claimers in a stake race on Breeders' Cup undercard.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah,
that's exactly what. So I think that's where this comes from. But again, he's obviously getting a lot better as he gets older, and now into his 4-year-old year. This could be exactly the race at a big price to shock a lot of people. So again, I think that's where that comes from. I'm going 8-7-2. Jackson's going 7-11-4. Pat's going 3-7-11, and Charlie's going 2-3-7 in the Kentucky Cup Classic. Guys, before we get to the Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby preps, if you guys are enjoying the show and you guys haven't both either left a like or subscribe yet, please go down below the video player, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button. Again, it's completely free to do. It helps us out the most out of anything you guys can do. But also, we are on the road to 5,000 subscribers. So please, if you guys have not subscribed yet and you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. We'd love to hit 5,000 subscribers before these races on Saturday. Guys, we'll move into race number 11, which is the Bourbonette Oaks. It is not a graded stake, however, but it is mile and 16th for 3-year-old fillies, of course. And another Turfway field of 12, baby, is the morning line favorite, is all the way to second from the outside, the number 11, White Rocks for Victor Carrasco and Arnaud Delacour. And as I switch over the picks right now, wow, I'm the odd one out, okay, in this race. And everyone else is going with the number 3, Admit. Of course, I have her in second. I'm going with number 5, Bless the Broken at 10-1, and I might even end up going with Admit anyway because there's a chance Bless the Broken might not even run on Saturday, considering she's also cross-entered.
I heard she's running here.
She is working at Turfway, so I assumed that she was going to stay here, but we will see. Jackson, I'll let you go first to tell me why I'm the only one that's going to be wrong in this race. I mean, look, she was very good last time in the Cincinnati Trophy, just ended up losing to White Rocks. Looks to be a little bit tougher trip this time for White Rocks, so Admit might get the better of her in there.
Yeah, I was thinking I was going to get a decent price on this horse, but maybe if this is everyone's pick, then maybe not.
Well, and now it's on Bettin N Boozin, so now you're going to get even worse price.
There you go. Look, it is tough at the mile distance to win from the outside. That run the first turn from those outside posts comes up super quick. She broke really well in that race and just had no chance. She was hung so wide that first turn. And then, as you mentioned, White Rocks just kind of ran away with it. She was the one that made the first move into that pace. She knew Moncada is riding really well right now. He knew he had to go because White Rocks was so far in front. He had to go early, and she was coming, and just got a little bit too tired late. But after the wide trip and the early move, I can't be too harsh on her for it. Now she's drawn really well on the inside. She's gonna get that pocket trip that she got, 2 and 3 back, where we saw her run really, really well and win. I just think the post position is going to be enough to turn the tables on a horse like White Rocks. And 9-2 is, a much better price than White Rocks is, I think 3-1 or 5-2 as well. So odds are slipping in here. I think she's going to have a much better trip than she did last time. And if she takes another step forward, she's going to be right there yet again.
And you get the extra 16th of a mile as well, which could obviously help a horse that's out of a wharf run mare. So, and you could, White Rocks, again, there's a whole ton of stuff we'll talk about in a little bit, but there's a lot more against her in this race than there was. She's not going to be, if she's up by 8 in this race, I would be very surprised. But again, I wouldn't be, because it's races that we are betting on and weird shit tends to happen. But Pat, Charlie, anything you guys want to add on Admit, and then you guys can feel free to go into White Rocks, who will you both have in second?
Charlie, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, with Admit, I think Jackson kind of nailed a lot of it. For me, with her, this is why you got to watch multiple replays, not just the last. I saw what he saw with this horse being caught out wide, but I also got to see when she didn't have as difficult of a trip from her post position 2 back, how good she looked and that she could get the job done. So for me, that's just what I keyed in on. Is I just thought it's nothing against the 11. There's a reason I have the horse in second. I still think she's talented too. I just thought Admit had a lot of excuses and did an incredible job just to get it that close. And I thought everything sort of went the way White Rocks wanted. The horse was incredibly loose, had an easy post position. For me, it's just, I think, especially with the price, and people are just going to see that horse won and wired the field, knowing that this one, at least I should, even if I had the same price, I would still take Admit, because I just think there's a lot more upside and excuses, is working forwardly, loves it here at Turfway. All 3 starts here are first or second. I just think there's a lot to like with this one. With the 11, again, just brief, just still have to respect the horse. Another one who's 2 for 3 in the top 2 here and his 2 straight wins. So one you have to respect, acknowledge, but the gate was some, or post position was something that scared me. And then briefly on the 7, Ask Catch Can, I just thought this was an interesting spot. And I like that this one, obviously for Tapeta, we've mainly been focusing just on ones that have been to Turfway, but I thought, it was interesting that this one has that experience at Woodbine, and obviously is going to need some setup, but has a really nice late kick. So if there is some setup, I think she could at least get into the, exactas and tries.
Yeah. I mean, look, as Catch Can, Jonathan Thomas, you get Frankie, who's coming over here. Again, one that's run very well in the Tapeta down at Woodbine, as you said. So I think Turfway could fit her right between the eyes, but 6-1 on a horse that might just be a little slow. That's where I'm a little bit dubious, at least, going a mile, going 2 turns. So that's going to definitely be, I see him, Matt. We'll get to that. Trust me. We'll get to that at the end. But again, no more to say on Admit. I think she's very talented and she could just get the right trip in this spot. Definitely will use her in some way. I went with Bless the Broken, guys. And again, this could just be a complete stupid pick, to be completely honest with you, but she's 10-1. I love the value. You get Johnny V in a spot like this. Again, she was cross-entered into Fairgrounds this weekend. Looks like she's going to run here. This, for me, I love the trainer intent that William Walden got her here early. She's been working on the Tapeta, has been working pretty well on the Tapeta. Again, in the Silver Bullet Day, she ran against a horse Simply Joking, who's very good. Obviously came back with ran an 87 in that race. And the horse she just beat in Drexel Hill came back to win the Busher at Aqueduct. So again, coming out of a very live race there. And then you go in the one back. And of course, in the Rachel Alexander, losing to a horse like Good Cheer and Gowell's Delight. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no Good Cheers in a race like this. She hasn't been bet the last 2, but again, I just feel like those fields have been a lot tougher than what this field is. I completely respect Admit and those horses like that, but if Bless the Broken can take to the Tapeta, I feel like she's at least going to outrun her odds at 10-1, which she might not be. She might be bet down a little bit from that. Try 7-8-1, but I still feel like that's a good enough price to take a shot in a race that if it's not Admit or White Rocks, it looks pretty wide open. But other than that, Jackson, I'll let you finish up as your top picks here, as you have 2 horses that none of us have. So Just Ruthless for Destin Heath, who is a pretty small barn, morning lines 20-1, and then you have Resolve with the inside, another horse coming over from the West Coast.
Yeah, a couple Noah Maher picks here. The 11 or is it the 10?
Yeah, that's
the 10. Just Ruthless. The last race. I loved her, and I loved White Rocks. I thought one of those 2 would win. White Rocks won, and this horse just didn't run her race. She was kind of in chase mode the whole time, and just didn't show up. Obviously, something happened because we've seen her run much better than that. So I want to give her another chance at a much, much bigger price. I was able to watch her workouts on the 8th. She looked really, really good in that one, just cruising by a workmate, going so much easier. So I do think we're going to see a much better effort out of her on Saturday. And then the one Resolve, it's just a horse that one of these days she's going to get a trip. I mean, you look at her last race, she had no chance with the pace. The 1-2 back, she was boxed in, just barely couldn't get there. The 1-3 back, Frankie did one of his typical full send on the closer for absolutely no reason, didn't work out. Same with the 4-back race. I mean, she just had trip after trip after trip after trip. One of these days she's going to get one. She's going to do it at a price. Why not on Saturday when she's drawn well on the inside and has the tactical speed that works really well on this track?
I thought this was a very interesting ship here, Noah, for this type of race. I don't know if it's, like I said, trying to Derby wise or Oaks wise. What the hell was that? That Pat just started echoing for some reason. I don't know what the hell that was. Trust me, you don't want to hear my voice twice. But I thought this was a really interesting ship for this. Like I said, I don't know if it's Oaks involved or something like that, but coming from the turf down there, now shipping over here. Did obviously Leonard Powell shipped a couple over here, but I don't think he has anyone else running on this card. So I just thought this was a really interesting spot for this horse to show up in.
Yeah, agreed. And, they have the Tapeta at Santa Anita. It's a little different, but they obviously think she was training well over it. And this race is worth a lot more money than the one on Sunday at Santa Anita. So maybe they're going for that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely very true. So, like I said, love to see how she runs. Obviously drawn very well to the inside and could just set a very nice, mid pack on the rail trip and can tip out at the top of the stretch. Yep. But last horses I want to talk about, I just have the 8 Golden Sunshine in there, coming off a very, very nice maiden win last time for Owen Hardy. Gets a little bit extra distance here. Obviously going to be a tough class up, but if that number's any indication, she could definitely fit, especially if she improves off that last one. You got Dubawi breeding in there out of Medagliadoro. Distance should be absolutely no concern. And obviously Godolphin and Owen Hardy put her in this spot. So a lot of confidence being shown. It's just a matter of can she handle the class in a race like this? Guys, we're going to move on to the Jeff Ruby as we're nearing an hour here for episode 124 of Bettin N Boozin. Of course, if you guys are enjoying the show, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. I'm going 5-3-8. Jackson's going 3-10-1. Pat's going 3-11-5. And Charlie's going 3-11-7. Guys, we'll move on to race number 12, which, of course, is the feature on the card. It is the Jeff Ruby Stakes, worth, I believe, 50 points, right, guys? If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 50 points. That's a bad host fail on my part. But either way, the Jeff Ruby, full field of Turfway 12 as usual, with the morning line favorite being the number out to the outside, the number 9 Poster, Johnny V, Owen Hardy at 3-1. Second choice, a really good story, the number 3 California Burrito, Irving Moncada and Tom Drury at 7-2. And as I bring up our picks right now, I am going with Poster. I'm the only one going with Poster, which I thought was actually really interesting. Jackson's going with the number 10 Maximum Promise. Jackson, if your horses run well on Saturday, I'm going to have a great day. I will just say that right now. Pat's going with the number 5 Flying Mohawk. Charlie's going with the number 4 Final Gambit. So all over the place again for both of the features on the day. I'll let Charlie go first, Jackson, and then I'll let you go with the number 10 since you both, actually all of us, except Pat, have the 10 either in first or second. But Charlie, the number 4 Final Gambit, since none of us have it anywhere, I want you to talk about it. Again, a pretty hard step up, and it's going to have to improve, but a deep closer that looks in a race that looks to have a pretty decent amount of pace in it.
Yeah, this was not an easy race. I was actually really torn between the 4 and the 10. I think it's really interesting because I think the 10 is the safer bet, and yet Luan Machado goes to the 4, which I'm curious to see what Jackson has to say about that. When I watched this one, again, debut was fine, nothing crazy, nothing terrible though. Then immediately switches to Tapeta, which I thought was kind of interesting because it's not like this horse looked like he didn't want turf. I thought ran fine, just ultimately had a little too much to do and couldn't go by. And then just to me, visually, I get that, the buyer was slightly lower and so was time for him. But visually, his leg kick just blowing by that field was really impressive to me and just looked like a different side. It looked like the horse that, I think Cox and Juddmonte were really kind of hoping and expecting they would have. I just think has lots of upside. We'll get the setup. To me, when I watch the gap as well, it seems like a horse that I think will be fine with taking this distance. I just think there's a lot of upside. Obviously, the only knock would be I love the value at 6-1, but with Cox and Machado and Juddmonte, there's no way that I would imagine this horse holds 6-1. I don't think it'll be a crazy drop, but definitely will end up going lower than this. Also is working pretty consistently. The last thing was also, I just like this was also a fresh face, but the one concern also would be the step up.
And I don't mean to say something like this. I don't mean to poo-poo your pick or something like that, but I thought 6-1 on this horse, Jackson, was insane. I mean, you can just go to Pat's pick, I guess, Flying Mohawk. Granted, never been on the Tapeta, but 82 buyer last time out. Same type of trip that the 4 is going to get, and he's 3 times the price. I just thought that was insane.
Yeah, I hope if I'm wrong that you're right, Charlie. But just for me, I'm treating him as a takeout reducer in the spot. He's just way too damn slow to win a race like this at this point, and he's going to be way overbet for these connections. But that's just me.
And again, I'm trying to poo-poo your pick, Charlie. I just felt like that was a very necessary thing to bring up, considering that this horse is 6-1 on the morning line, just winning a maiden with a 64 buyer. So, but going to the outside horse, Jackson, Maximum Promise. Again, we can't show the replay. I thought this was a very, very sneaky good effort last time out in the Battaglia Memorial, considering that the top two basically just a ring around the rosy the entire way around the track. Maximum Promise really the only one gaining ground in this one. Obviously, Machado does pop off, so I guess that is something to take into mind, like Charlie said. But Dettori hops aboard here, so if he doesn't do one of his master classes, I think Maximum Promise is very, very live in this race.
Agreed. And we know, again, we had Tony on last night, and he said that was another day where it was kind of advantageous to be forward, and he came from way out of it. And they also walked on the front end. It's not like they went fast at all. And he was the only horse who made any kind of move from the back of the pack. He was way wide doing it. And it feels like he's supposed to move forward in third start off of a very long layoff from last August. Obviously, they threw him into Lecomte off a 6 month layoff, which kind of shows how good they think he is. And he actually ran fine in that spot, too. So I think with Frankie getting on, he's going to be a little bit more aggressive. He'll be closer than he was last time. And I really believe he's the one you want coming out of that race, because I think he's a pretty safe bet to take another step forward, third start off the bench.
I couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, I have Baby Max in there, and I promise it's not because of my Kelsey love trying to sneak her in somewhere. But yeah, I think Maximum Promise is definitely the one you want out of that race for all the reasons that were said by both Jackson and myself. Pat, I'll go to you next. I mean, you have a big opinion in this race. 15-1 morning line. I really like Joe Ramos just as a jockey. He's ridden for us at Crowns way before. 82 buyer last time out at the fairgrounds makes a ton of sense. This is another one that's a very interesting spot that, he shows up here. Argue DFS, whatever you want, but obviously Flying Mohawk definitely has the numbers if he can put it together on the Tapeta.
Yeah. I think Flying Mohawk showed a lot of talent as a 2-year-old, or more talent than Whit Beckman expected. Ended up throwing this horse in the Pilgrim. Was on the lead that day and just was really, never really we caught a tough field. I mean, Zulu Kingdom, obviously, we all know how good Zulu Kingdom is now. But at the end of the day, I just think, off the layoff, he's going to hopefully get a nice trip in here. And I think, there is talent here. There is some breeding that shows that this horse will appreciate the Tapeta. And I want to go off the beaten rail in this spot. So I think at 15-1, I know you guys alluded to a couple horses maybe taking more money because of connections, but I think in here you never know. This could be an upset type of pick. And this horse has shown to be tactical. Has broken from the gate pretty well in a couple races, but has also set off the pace, which it did last time. And I think in that race in the fairgrounds, that horse showed a lot of improvement. Now, obviously, he's going to have to do it off a little bit of some time off.
But you could argue the same thing happened last time, right? Where he ran off a 2-month layoff, or the 3-month layoff, excuse me, and ran just as good as he ever has. So, there's many different ways you can go with Flying Mohawk, especially if he takes to the Tapeta. Guys, I tried a lot to look around for horses in this race, breeding, tried a whole bunch. I could not get over Poster, and there's a lot of things that you could argue that maybe he's going to be hammered in this race. You could look for a much better value. I just think he's better than most of these horses in the field. The other thing that I like is the trainer intent that Owen Hardy has moved to in this. Right after the Sam F. Davis, he ran well, by the way, to John Hancock, who's probably going. I don't know. You did a show earlier today, Jackson, on the Louisiana Derby. He's probably going to be the favorite in Louisiana Derby. I know you hope so, but there's no John Hancocks in this race. Owen Almighty, who came back, obviously, to win a very nice Derby prep with a very good number. And then you have Poster, who obviously was a little bit farther back from those two in that race. But right after the Sam F. Davis, ships immediately to Turfway Park, gets 4 works over it with increasingly better times. I just feel like Poster's really lined up to run a good one here in a field that you could argue has been in worse than what he's ran in both the Remsen and in the Sam F. Davis. And if he runs well in here, he could be sneaky and maybe even in the Derby, considering that he's already run well on the dirt. I just think he might just be a better horse. And if he takes the synthetic like he has in his workouts, I just feel like Poster could be very good in this race. And Jackson, I want to go to you first because I do want to get your opinion on him. I know you don't have him anywhere. So being throwing out the morning line favorite in a race like the Jeff Ruby, I feel like it's always good to get the other perspective from someone that doesn't like Poster.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a horse that just based on speed figures does not have any kind of advantage over the field, and he's going to be 5-2. But I also I don't know how good he really is. That Sam F. Davis, I'm not a fan of. I don't think it was a good race at all when the horses go that fast up front and nobody passes either of them. I know Owen Almighty came back to win, but he also was gifted that race on silver platter. So
yes, he was.
I'm still kind of skeptical of that form overall, as well as the Remsen, where again that form has just not held up. So I'm going to let him beat me in this spot. I'm not going to be surprised when he runs well, but at the price he's going to be, I don't need him.
No, and that's fair. Like I said, I just think, at the end of the day, he could just be better. But again, I completely respect everything. Obviously, I like Maximum Promise a lot, so completely respect everything you said there. Any other horses? And then actually, Charlie, one last horse before we move on to best bets, of course. I want to touch on California Burrito because California Burrito ran huge in the Battaglia Memorial. Granted, they didn't go very fast, but he was pressured the entire way around the track and still found enough to beat Baby Max, who actually was favored in that race over California Burrito. For me, I'm just having a little bit trouble of finding because he's not going to get anywhere near, at least in my opinion, he's not getting anywhere near setup he got in the last race, let alone the race he won by 7 1/4, where he went 51-3 to the half mile. So very hard for me to see a winning race, like a winning way around the track for California Burrito. But again, he's done nothing wrong per se, and he's probably got the best buyer in the field. So can definitely see why you might want to have him in the money somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's my angle too. I have to pay respect to him. He was so damn game last time and had every reason and chance to just get blown by at the end, but hung on and fought back to pull back away by a little bit at the end. I completely agree with you. I don't think he has it with this setup in this field to win, but I absolutely do think with how much he loves the course and with how forward he'll be, I absolutely think he could stay up for a piece. That being said, like vertically, I wouldn't touch this horse. Like 7-2 is not the price I want in a horse I think can hold on for third.
Yeah, I mean, if Jackson, you're talking about value, if you're talking about in this race, California Burrito and Poster being like the same price, I would much rather have Poster, wouldn't you?
I would not. If I'm looking at the similar price, I have a horse that's running 90 buyer over this racetrack versus a horse that's running 80s over the dirt. So I would prefer California Burrito.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I guess I meant from a trip perspective in that point, but okay. No, you're definitely right. I'll tell you that much. But guys, we're going to move on to best bets here. I'm going 9-10-6 in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Jackson's going 10-12. Pat's going 5-9-2. Charlie's going 4-10-3. Guys, we're going to have two separate best bet segments, so don't go anywhere. Of course, we have to touch on March Madness as that's coming up starting tomorrow. And if I don't, the man below me might throw a hissy fit and run around Ohio State, like basically doing a bun run. So we have to get this in video here.
Footage of that.
Yeah, I bet you would there, Patrick. That would be good Twitter content. I will say that. Jackson, I will let you go first, of course. 2 win bets, making it super easy for the people. And one of them, I'm very fond of. Race number 7 to win the number 8 Dazzling Dictator, and race number 10, which is the Kentucky Cup Classic, going with a win on number 7, Tappet Shoes. One's 8-1, one's 10-1. 2 good prices as well for the people.
Yeah, I'll be quick so we can get to Charlie. And Charlie called my team getting whooped yesterday, so I'm curious to see what else he has to say about this whole weekend. Dazzling Dictator, just a horse I like a lot. I think she's just in really good form right now. She's been the 2-back race. She had a really tough trip against a horse that beat pretty much the main contenders in this spot, and she ran better than that horse. That was miscalled Quality Control. So I think you can upgrade that 2-back race. And then last time, if she runs to that race she ran last time, she's going to win this thing. So it's just a matter of can she replicate that from off the pace? And I'm very willing to find out at 8-1. And then Tappet Shoes, the other one in the Kentucky Cup Classic. I think there's plenty of speed for him again. And again, this is a horse that has the high figures in this race and had a lot of trouble last time. And you're giving me 10-1 on a horse like that should get a setup again. Yeah, sign me up all day. I'll feel very good about those two. Hopefully we can get at least one of them home, and it'll be a lot of fun on Saturday.
Yeah, it will definitely be a lot of fun on Saturday, and something we don't get to do a lot as a group here. We get to watch some night racing as a group. So hopefully we can bring that into fruition. Well, night racing for some of us, Jackson, not necessarily for you, of course, as Saturday's card starts at 12:45 Eastern time. But good luck, Jackson, with your best bets. Patrick, go to you next, my friend. You're starting with a double, starting later in race number 10, which you could argue, you may even play these as a pick 3, as I believe 50 cent pick 3. They do offer that, a double 3-7 into 3 starting in race number 10. That is, of course, Verstappen and Tapit Shoes, including that into Admit. And in race number 12, you're 15-1 to win number 5, Flying Mohawk in the Jeff Ruby.
Yeah, I'm going to keep Verstappen, who I think is just ultra consistent, and then Tapit Shoes, who I know Jackson has talked about a lot, and hopefully we can catch a price in there. Into Admit, who I think is one of my better plays of the day. Just going to try and maybe Dutch those, set a goal on what to do and try and hit that, and then Flying Mohawk in the Jeff Ruby. I think I'm going to get all of 15-1, if not more. In what should be a fun race, and hoping to catch a flyer in there. So this is going to be a fun card, and this is a lot of wide open field. So if you're playing this pick 5, this is a good one.
Hoping to catch a flyer of the Mohawk variety, I believe, in the Jeff Ruby. So we go a little boss. Got to add a boss teacher joke in there at least once during a show. For now, we're not trying. Good luck, Pat, with your best bets. Charlie, going to you next. Race number 7, a win in number 8. She's fascinating. So going against, wait, that's not race number. Oh no, sorry, you didn't give me best bet. Oh no, you did, but you sent them 2 minutes beforehand. So I can just say scramble. I'm putting him in. He did do his homework. I promise he did do his homework. It's not just you, Pat, or it is just you, Pat. But I'll read. Go ahead and read them off, Charlie. I'll get him in right now.
Yeah, so my best bets are in the first race we covered long ago to win. That's sort of my, I would say full-blown long shot, but sort of just my upside horse who I think you'll get a fair price. The quick return is a concern, but I trust Brendan Walsh. Then race 8, this is the strongest one I feel about. Double of the 2 and the 5, Urban Planner and Cole Moon into Coming in Hot, who I think is the most likely winner, and I think you could get a decent price on those. I Dutch them. Obviously, the 5 will be a little better of a price. And then my last best bet, Paros to win in race 10. You'll get a fair price, and I have to back one of my favorite horses, so there's no way I'm not going to do that. So those are my 3 best bets.
The Charles Chuckle Special. There it is, people. Winning number 6 long ago in race number 7. Race 8, a double 2-5 into 4, and then race 10, win on number 2 Paros, because Chuckles is obligatory to the horses that has made him money in the past. So Charlie, good luck with your best bets. Mine are super easy as well. Race number 7, a win number Dazzling Dictators, we call it around here, the irresponsible wager of the week. And I don't usually do this, guys, but I did do a 2x2 double in the last. And that starts in race number 11. That one's a host fail, but race number 11, Dutch doubles 3-5 into 9-10. So basically, Dutching, for people that don't know, Dutching doubles is when you alter the units of the bet to be able to get the same payout no matter what they pay. And 3-5 starting is Admit, and my 10-1 horse Bless the Broken. So 10-1 I felt like was definitely good enough to be able to Dutch. And race number 12 in the Jeff Ruby with Poster and Maximum Promise, who's 5-1 on the morning line. So I feel like the 10-1, 5-1 double could pay, upwards of 30, 40, 50-1 for a buck. But then the Poster Admit double might only pay something around 7 or 8-1. So there's many different ways that you can Dutch stuff in there, maybe to make, a good 4-1, something like that total on the race with lots of different combinations that can definitely win the race. I feel like was definitely worth at least a little bit of my money. So guys, good luck to your best bets with Chuckles. I will let you go on your rant here. And again, if you guys weren't around at the beginning of the show, down below in the description is the HHH Racing Podcast subscribers bracket pool, guys. Every single thing you need to know is in the description below. But again, you must be subscribed to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel to be able to win the prizes. So if you guys are watching over on X after the show's over, please come on over to the YouTube channel and you can find it in the description. Charlie, I'm bringing up the bracket right now, and I need to bring up a new bracket because I am not spoiling the bracket that I have. But anyway, the floor is yours, Chuckles. Feel free to go on your rants.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go region by region, just give some nuggets on each little part of it. So I'm going to skip the Auburn game because I think everybody feels the same. So starting with Louisville Creighton, two things to note: Louisville majorly underseeded, most metrics having closer to a 5 or 6 seed, and also this game's being played in Louisville, so this is basically or Lexington, I believe. So it's basically a home game. They also have 4 players averaging 12 plus points per game. Going into Michigan versus UC San Diego as an Ohio State student and fan, this couldn't be more of a dream for me. This is who I was praying Michigan would get matched up against. Michigan, a team who probably got screwed for winning the Big Ten and only got a 5 seed. They are one of the worst in the country in turnovers, as they are 328th in turnovers per game. UCSD is number 2 in the country in forced turnovers. They also have a guy, Aniwama Tate Jones, to watch out for as a senior guard who averages nearly 20 a game. So that big difference in turnovers is something to look out for. Texas A&M Yale, another one that's really tough. This is on my list of games I'm losing sleep over for figuring out who to pick. Texas A&M, the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the country. However, the main reason for this is they are arguably the worst shooting team in the entire field, as they are 322nd in field goal percentage, 316th in three-point percentage, and their effective field goal rate is also in the 300s, bearing in mind there's only 364 colleges, while Yale is 8th in three-point field goal percentage and 10th in field goal percentage overall. So that's a matchup nightmare. Ole Miss UNC, no real notes, just that Ole Miss is considered overseeded and UNC underseeded. And it seems like the committee did a very good job rigging it to make sure they got the dream set up for the round of 32. And also to note, since the first 4 games started, 12 of the 13 years, at least one team that played in the first 4 advanced to the round of 32. Iowa State, just note that their second best player is out for the season. Marquette, New Mexico, true toss-up, but a very fun game to watch. Donovan Dent and Cam Jones, for each of their teams respectively, are 2 of the best scorers in the country. Michigan State, just a very serious team, but to note, no team that started the preseason unranked and went on to be a top 2 seed has made the Final 4. So just note that with Michigan State. I like Auburn out of that region. Moving into the West, in the Florida region, UConn, Oklahoma, just main thing to note, I know a lot of casuals are just going to see UConn as Dan Hurley, and he is great in March, and they've won 2 years in a row. That being said, their defense fell off a cliff. They are not the same team. If you want to take them to win a game, no problem with it. Florida might beat them by 100. Moving into the next game, Memphis, Colorado State, going to be a very tough game to figure out. Just note Tyrese Hunter, who's their second best player, arguably, is questionable, and the reports have not been good on him playing. Colorado State also has won 10 straight, and they have some very talented players to watch out for, especially Nika Clifford. For Maryland versus Grand Canyon, this Maryland team, in my opinion, is incredibly underseeded. They're the best team in the Big Ten by a wide margin. The Crab 5, their starting 5, is arguably the best starting 5 unit in the country. And if it wasn't for that they were playing Florida, I'd have this team in my Final 4, and it still wouldn't surprise me if they did. Missouri Drake, you want to talk about 2 teams that couldn't be any more different. Missouri is one of the fastest teams in the country, and Drake is one of the slowest. A lot of people are going to like this upset. I think it's a tough game, so it could go either way. Texas Tech, big thing to note, 2 of their star players were out during the Big 12 tournament and are now back. This is another team that could scream Final Four potential. I think this is the strongest region that there is. Kansas, Arkansas, thanks for coming out. 2 programs with big expectations, 2 awful teams. St. John's will kill both of them. But note that St. John's has the same issue as MSU, where they were also not ranked to start the season, so they can't make the Final Four either. Moving to the other,
I love Jackson just laughing while Charlie just rips fucking teams apart. So.
That's my favorite one yet. Just thanks for coming out, guys. Y'all are terrible.
Moving into the East, and you guys are welcome. Also, this is what happens when you have a degenerate sicko like me that does all this research and watches all these games. Duke we'll get to in a second. Mississippi State, Baylor, another one where it's just 2 teams. Baylor's had so many injuries, and they're finally getting a little healthy, but Duke's blowing out either of them. Thanks for coming out. Oregon, Liberty, with the way they shoot the ball, is going to be a very popular upset pick, but don't bet against Dana Altman. I believe the last 8 tournaments he's been in, his team has reached at least the round of 32, so not a good idea to bet them out early. Arizona, Akron, this game, if you like overs, this is a great game to bet. They might hit 10,000 points. They both play the same style. Arizona just does it way better. They're going to kill them. BYU, VCU, my God, do I feel bad for BYU. I get that because with the Mormon rule, they can't play on Sundays, so it's limited where they can be played. Little fun fact for you. That being said, VCU is one of the best defensive teams in the country, as they are top 10 in defending the 3, while BYU is one of the top 30 teams in shooting the 3. Contrasting styles, 2 very underseeded teams. I'd have this as like a 4-9 or 4-8 matchup, so could go either way. Moving down to the rest of the bracket, St. Mary's, Vanderbilt. 8, 9, 7, 10 games are supposed to be tough. This is the easiest one. St. Mary's is going to kill them. Vanderbilt might not break 10 points. They are one of the most inefficient offenses in the country, playing one of the most stifling defenses in the country. Alabama, very volatile team. They could go far, but St. Mary's as a second-round matchup is a disaster, so they're a very volatile team they have to be worried about, as well as their second-best player is coming back from injury, but they do not know if he will play their first-round game or not. So note that. Lastly, in the Midwest, I don't know how I'm still breathing, but we're rolling here. Gonzaga, according to the metrics, should be a 3 seed, which is just wild to say. They will kill Georgia, but they will lose to Houston. They're going to be a trendy upset team because of people who look at the metrics. I get it, but they are one of the worst shooting teams, 3-pointers I've watched. A little fun fact, they played St. Mary's in their championship game. The teams combined to go 1 for 31 from 3. So if you're wondering how good they are at 3-point shooting, there you go. Clemson, McNeese, 2 very similar style teams, so it's going to be a trendy upset pick to go with McNeese. Interesting fact, there are reports that were coming out that I just found during the show. You want to talk about effort and live reporting info for you guys, that their head coach, Will Wade, has just accepted the job at NC State, which is just a little interesting nugget. So I don't know how that's going to impact their actual game itself. High Point, Purdue, another thing where both teams play very similar styles, very high-scoring, offense-heavy teams. This is one I'm also losing sleep over who to go with. High Point is not your typical team because they have size. They have a 7-footer, which is not what you see with these small schools. And Purdue has fallen off a cliff lately. That being said, High Point has terrible defense against the pick and roll because they like to go under a lot, which Purdue could take advantage of. Illinois, the most volatile team in the tournament. When they're at their best, they are an Elite 8 team. When they're at their worst, they could lose in the first round. Them versus Kentucky might be a game to first to 500. Neither team likes to play defense, but Illinois is getting healthy, as Howard had pointed out in the chat. Noah had acknowledged Kentucky's banged up, so for me, I would lean towards Illinois there. UCLA, Utah State takes my pick for the worst 8, 9, 7, 10 game that I don't want to watch. My eyes are going to bleed during that game. The good news is Tennessee will put both teams out of their misery in the next round. So that's my little breakdown there. Going into one other fact about the 1 seeds, if you feel chalky, this is for me personally. I'll give a little spoiler on my bracket. The first year I've ever picked all 4 1 seeds to the Final Four. That being said, this is the first year all 4 1 seeds are top 12 in offense and defense in KenPom. So this is like a whole different precedent of how much better analytically the top 4 1 seeds are compared to the rest of the field. They lay over them. There's your breakdown of the bracket.
Bang. There you go. How about that? What a life we live. Yeah, golf clap for the man himself. Guy did that 10 minutes without breathing, by the way.
Damn impressive. I can't lie.
That was 10 minutes? Shit, I was trying to be quick.
No, I didn't fucking time you, dude. I'm going to be honest. But it was long. But yeah, you didn't breathe a single time in there. So that was pretty good. But that was really impressive. That might have to be put somewhere. But either way, I mean, look, it's fantastic. It's March Madness, guys. All of us are just gonna be sitting and watching it while we work. That's the way of the world, especially for round of 64 and round of 32. All you do is sit there and watch basketball for 4 days straight. It's a fantastic time. And again, if you have not filled out a bracket yet, or you have and you're subscribed to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel, put it into our bracket pool, which is in the description of this podcast. After all that, Jackson, thank you for coming on, my friend. Greatly appreciate it. If you guys don't watch his, he's now part of Pacific Horse Players on Tuesday nights. So if you guys don't watch that show, if you want more of Jackson, please go file it over there. But Jackson, where else can people find you? Either on podcasts or on other social media?
Yeah, I'm on the In the Money channel as well, usually once or twice a week. On the Gallop Out with Ryan. That's now with ABR as well. So we're doing that at least once or twice a week. And then obviously on PHP is every Tuesday night. So all over the place now. So it's a lot of fun, very busy, but this is a good time of year with all the derby stuff going on.
That's true. It's the best. It's one of the best times of year. That's for sure. And hopefully again, with some more sports starting up new now, everyone will get a little bit more active, but that will do for episode 124 of Bettin N Boozin. Thank you guys all so much for watching. And thank you, of course, to my co-hosts for for lugging it out, as this has been one of the longer episodes we've had in a long time. But again, 6 races, March Madness, Derby season, March Madness season. It's definitely a good show to have that for. So for our guest and, of course, HHH Racing Podcast co-host Jackson Muniz, and for my co-hosts Patrick Kunsel and Charlie Freeman, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 124 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering Jeff Ruby Stakes Day and a little bit of March Madness preview from our resident college basketball analyst. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.